that we want our complete independence. And even if they want us to fight for this independence with them, we are ready.
Sadat, however, was caught by the British. He lost his army commission and was sent to prison.
When you look back, Mr. President, from the perspective of history, what do you think the world would have been like if Hitler had won the war?
Terrible. Terrible. It would have been very terrible. God will never permit this. We say this here. If there is something very outrageous, we say God will never permit this.
Sadat escaped from prison and disappeared into the crowded streets of Cairo. He lived as a fugitive and took up once more with Nasser the secret movement for revolution. 2 years later, he was back in jail.
I was accused of plotting for the assassination of some politician called Amin Osman here.
You were guilty, were you not?
Well, to a certain extent, I trained those students and those young men. This was my main accusation, that I trained them to use hand grenades and pistols, and so I trained them. Yes, I trained them.
After a celebrated trial, Sadat was acquitted, and by 1952, the king's days were numbered. By now, the British were occupying only the Suez Canal zone, but Egyptian opposition even to that was mounting. 1952 was a landmark year. On the 25th of January, British soldiers surrounded an Egyptian police post in the canal town of Ismailia. They commanded the police to lay down their arms and leave the British area. The Egyptians refused. The fort was leveled. More than 50 Egyptians were killed. And the next day in Cairo, the mob took its revenge. Nasser and Sadat saw in this Black Saturday the public sentiment needed to assure their success. The revolution date was set for July, only 6 months away. On the day Nasser decided to strike, his lieutenant Anwar Sadat was serving in the Sinai. Nasser ordered him back to Cairo. When Sadat arrived at the station, a curious mix-up occurred.
Gamal didn't receive me, and this was not his custom at all. So I thought, nothing will happen today or tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. I said, I may go to the open-air cinema tonight and enjoy myself, and then after that, in the morning, I'll see Gamal.
While Sadat was at the movies, the coup began. Sadat finally caught up with it, and he was soon thoroughly involved.
I went to the Prime Minister and delivered the ultimatum to him. He was shocked, believe me, because up till this moment he didn't know that we were going to dethrone the king at all. He was shocked and received me like this. I told him yes. He said, are you powerful enough? I told him yes. Go and deliver it to the king. He must leave by 6 o'clock this evening.
The young officers were unsure whether their youth would work against them. Protectively, they appointed an older man, General Mohammed Naguib, as the man the public would see as their leader. Sadat remained in the background. Naguib, for all the ceremony, had no power. Nasser made all the decisions. Newsreels of the day were therefore slightly misleading.
From Cairo come these first authentic pictures of the bloodless coup by which the army took over control of Egypt. It was the end of the king's attempt to maintain power. Troops in the street were the first indication of the change to most people, until with the broadcasting station seized, it was announced that General Naguib, the commander-in-chief whom Farouk refused as war minister, had taken control, and the army were ordered to guard strategic points. The declared aim was to stop corruption. They struck at the top, and General Naguib shows the abdication papers signed by King Farouk in favor of his 7-month-old son. Meantime, from Alexandria, the royal yacht Marusa sails with the ex-king and the infant king for Capri. To the ordinary Egyptian, the change is welcome. What the change will mean to the rest of the world, we have yet to see.
The impression you had in Alexandria Harbor the night that the Marusa sailed King Farouk into exile?
Relax. Relax. Really.
Was the coup easier than you expected?
Very easy. Yes. Yes. Yes.
The new government, the Revolutionary Command Council, met legally for the first time.
And we were not prepared at all, either to form the government or to do whatever, anything at all. We were not prepared at all. Believe me, we were in a mess. What are we going to do? We are responsible now after the country, after Egypt.
By 1956, General Naguib had left government altogether. Nasser, now president, was to be Sadat's boss for the next 14 years. Egyptian nationalism did not wane under Nasser. If anything, it increased. Nasser appealed to the United States for arms and was turned down. He bought them from the Soviet bloc. Washington, in return, refused to provide the money it had promised for the badly needed Aswan High Dam. The Russians offered to pay. The Egyptians readily accepted. The American failure to provide the money led to the first serious Soviet penetration of Egypt. Sadat still blames the American Secretary of State John Foster Dulles.
We didn't like him here because he has never understood us. He has taken everything always black and white. Either you are with America or you are not with America, or you are an enemy of America. I don't like this attitude because there is a psychological element in the whole thing. We have our pride. We want to be friends with America, but we have our pride and we don't want to be a puppet government, or we don't want to receive orders from Mr. Dulles. But we can be friends. He didn't understand this.
Sadat stepped into the shadows for the years of the Nasser regime. He did not really re-emerge until one night in December of 1969. Nasser, concerned about his own death and the perpetuation of his policies, named Anwar Sadat his vice president.
And he said, well, if I happen to die, I want you to continue, and I don't want anyone to humiliate this country again.
Did you take that as a pretty clear indication that he wanted you to be the next president?
Quite right. He never said this before.
Sadat, action biography will continue after this.